So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking the day off work to join us as well. This is going to be a fast and furious walk through the world of Kahoot. Everything from Kahoot today to a peek to the future of Kahoot as well.
I'm Johan, co-founder and CEO of Kahoot.
My name's Jamie, co-founder, chief creative officer, and I'm in our London office.
I'm in our Oslo office.
My name's Daniela, and I'm programs and events manager at Kahoot, and I work out of the Austin office. But I'm originally from London, so I started in the London office and transferred last year.
In this very building.
Hello, my name is Kaya. I work out of the Oslo office and I work with the pedagogy in Kahoot.
So we are roughly 38-40 people in Kahoot, depending on how people look at the full-time positions. We have 4 here in full-time here in Austin. We have about 24 in London and about 12 in Oslo. So 3 years ago we were nobody, and here we are. So this is an exciting journey.
Okay, so what we're going to do today. Firstly, we'll introduce Kahoot, why we're doing what we're doing. Then we're going to talk about the platform today and hopefully share some ways which will inspire you to use it perhaps in different ways that you're used to. Then we're going to have a Q&A with Stephanie, who's at the back of the room. Give her a wave. She's a user of Kahoot based in New York. And then we're going to have a break, and the guys from Kano are going to do a demo to build a Kano, and you guys can get involved with that. The second half of the session, this is focused on the future. So this might be the even more exciting bit. We're going to launch a brand new feature. Then we're going to do a demo of our new creator tool. I'm not sure if anyone here has access to that already. We're going to go through that, and we're going to give some tips and tricks for creating awesome learning games.
And if you don't have access, you will have access by end of play tonight.
Then we're going to share a peek even further into the future. So we're going to share some stuff from Kahoot Labs. This is where we show the trajectory of Kahoot and where we're going. But what we're going to do first, we're going to play a game of Kahoot.
So Kahoot.it.
Is there anyone in the room who doesn't use Kahoot? Okay. So what you need to do is in your web browser, go to Kahoot.it and then to the game pin 970133.
And I'll make an observation for you here. You see there's a YouTube ad here. That is not something that we've put in. Is when you embed a YouTube video, and if you're from a channel who allows advertising, it will come in. And we don't want advertising in the classroom, so we're trying to figure out a good way to get rid of those. But it's something to be aware if you are doing that. Look at, to see if it will display an ad or not.
And another thing you'll see is as we go on, we're going to play lots of games of Kahoot. And there might be some things that we do within the platform that you weren't aware you could do. Did you guys know that you can embed a YouTube video in the background of this screen? No? So some people did, some didn't. So this is a brilliant way to, for example, introduce the lesson or recap the previous lesson.
Settle kids down.
Or settle kids down, yeah. So what you'll see here is the creator of this Kahoot has created their own image using the Winter Games images that we're supplying at the moment. This is a technique that when we spot patterns happening like this, so for example we see lots of users doing similar things to this, we think, well, that could be a feature that we develop into the platform itself. Does anyone think that this would be a good idea? Yep.
Wouldn't it be cool if NASA gave their library of images to us and you guys could use it and apply it? But that's stuff we want to do.
This is the type of things that we want to learn from today as well.
How many people use this feedback screen? Yeah, I mean, we enjoy using the feedback screen, and so do a lot of teachers tell us, because the student can have a voice, right? And don't get offended if they're feeling bad, because often if the ones who didn't become the leaderboard will feel bad, but they'll still recommend it, and you'll get all these results and ends, so you can understand actually what's going on. It's just being able to have an expression. Yeah?
My students get mad not because they get the wrong answer, it's because they are not fast enough.
Okay. Yeah.
And that doesn't help, because, but I got it right. Yeah, but you were not first.
Yep.
So they are competing.
And the reason we are doing this with time is because sometimes you should realize that even though you get it right, you might not be fast enough. Or sometimes it's more important to get it right than being fast enough. And we're not an assessment tool and so in that sense. The point for us is this is about creating a fun environment, and competition and resistance is part of that. So you'll see that as we're going through, there is, there's always a compromise, but we're now in the space of competition. Do final results. And you can save the results. So to an Excel spreadsheet or to your G drive at the end, and you'll get all the data you collected, and you can go through it.
So next up, we're going to show you a video that we've been creating with our users. So all the footage in the video is from our users, and it shows different types of usages of Kahoot around the world, perhaps different uses that you've never seen before, maybe not thought of before, but they have one thing in common, and that's the behaviors. They're all engaged, motivated, and cheering. And this is how we're tackling the question we asked ourselves, which is how can we make learning awesome? Here it is. This is a Vine loop. This is probably the setting you're most used to seeing Kahoot in. YouTube video. This Vine has been looped 3.3 million times. This is from the X Games in Oslo. This is a live stream. And this is the world's biggest ever game of Kahoot. 3,000 seniors learning about what the internet is. These are students on their lunch break. They've organised their own game. Toddlers playing at home. Students playing on their lunch break. And these are the 3,000 seniors, the biggest ever game. This is a more typical setting in the classroom. And this is very common reaction. This is our first ever class. A live band improvising to a game of Kahoot. That's probably quite a common scenario as well. So as I said, the first thing we asked ourselves is how can we make learning awesome? If you were to fill in the rest of this sentence, Kahoot is, what would you say? Engaging. Kahoot is engaging. What you see here may be not what you're expecting to see. So what we're saying here is that Kahoot is an awesome, awesome review tool, but that's not what everything about Kahoot is. So Kahoot can be brilliantly used for reviewing, but because we're a platform, you can use it in all the ways that you choose to use it when people come together to learn and play. So what we say is Kahoot is a platform for creating and playing learning games. And when we started, we had 3 founding principles: social, play, learn. So what we said is we wanted to get rid of this idea of the BlackBerry prayer, where your head is buried in a device and you're ignoring all the people around you. And you maximize the precious time you have when you're together. So Kahoot doesn't have questions and answers and things like that on the device because we're encouraging people to look up. We're encouraging them to discuss with each other, collaborate, shout. Loud learning is a big thing with Kahoot. And we do that social environment through play. So through gaming, that's what Kahoot's about. And ultimately, you're coming together to learn. So we say, look up, play together. Kahoot's about bringing emotion into the learning experience. We do that through sound design, visual design, we do that through game design, we do that through language. And when you create this emotion, it creates memorable moments. And those are things that people don't forget. And after that, who knows what could happen. The very first interaction we designed was getting your name from your device to that screen at the front, because we knew that created these kind of magical moments. Because what happens there is, when you see your name appear on the screen, all of a sudden you're engaged, you're in the game, you're ready for it. So we actually said to ourselves, how can we bring the student at the back of the class to the front for all the right reasons? There are other things we do. So we use language within the game to show people that they're making progress, that they can keep on going. There are rewards throughout the game, having your name on the screen at the front, for example. That's loud.
So we keep on showing these images, which we call epic win, because we truly believe that you need to have winning moments in the classroom. I think we don't have enough winning together in classrooms. And we know this in sports, we know this in life. For some reason, we don't facilitate in the classroom. So this idea of playing together is about empathy, isn't it? It's actually more fun to win with others. And that's something we're really focusing on and getting the class together. And what we've seen for people who struggle with normal paper tests and other stuff, they succeed on Kahoot. And the rest of the class discovering they know the knowledge, and all of a sudden you create a more inclusive environment. And it's actually more comfortable. And it's more fun, it's more collaborative. So that's a very big reason for doing this. And we really thought, we're a behavioral company, we're going to use technology to facilitate it at scale, and we use gaming to structure it. And we'll get to this now, what that really means. This loop is so popular because this is what students express on social media. This is how I feel when we're going to play Kahoot. And they keep on sending it because that's what they feel. So what you're doing is you're connecting learning with their world. They get to do stuff they do at home. They get to do stuff that they connect with learning. It tends to be not in the school. Now this one is super interesting because once you have that hook, once they have a winning moment together, once you have all that motivation, you can then go and ask the students to create their own games. We want everyone to be game designers, to create challenges for others. And that in itself is a really good winning moment when someone is playing your game on Kahoot and they've learned something. And we'll talk more about this as we go along. Very quickly what this means, we call it Kahoot model, and it's combined with gaming, learning, and behavioral science. And what that looks like basically means when you're watching a good movie or you're playing a game, you have the trailer. That's the listening part. It's setting the scene. You understand we're in Norway, actually we're not. We're in Austin, we're in Capital Factory, you're here listening, we're setting the scene. Then you start playing, and when you're playing in the world, you're interacting with it, and you're starting to understand the rules. And you have a good moment. And then you say to the students, hey, you go now and research, create a Kahoot, be the teacher, and then they become a leader because the other students going, thank you, that Kahoot was so awesome. And that's how you become it. By giving back, you become a leader. And then you go and the loop goes and goes. And exactly the same happened in Minecraft, and it will happen in Kahoot, and it's what they do at home, and it's what they're doing when they're teaching each other. And you'll see with students, if they're doing Minecraft, for example, they'll have a YouTube video and they're learning while they're creating. They're looking and they're creating. And that process is something they're doing in a gaming environment, and it's the same thing, of course, in the learning environment. Then you decide it's the same thing. When you master a game, you've learned the game. If you'd like to, for example, get your students to create Kahoots themselves, but then play them all quite quickly together, what you can do is maybe have each group or each student themselves making 1 question, 2 questions, 3 questions. You can then select them from a list if they're shared with you. So you can just make, like here, choose, play selected. And it plays basically randomly them in an order, but they're logged in already with a PIN code. So then it's just quicker to go through them, and you get a winner per game. So it's a nice way actually to get a winner after each subject or whatever you have chosen to do. And that means you can basically combine little people's Kahoots together, and you get a winner after each game, but they're just running through the same PIN code.
Plays them in a random order as well, so it's a bit of a game in itself to see which student's Kahoot's coming up next.
There's no lag time, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. There's the kind of in-between bit.
This one should be quite exciting. If you run a teacher blog or your own website and so on, we're making available now so you can take a Kahoot and put it on your website and share it with the world. So this is a moment is a Norwegian publisher who is trialing this with us, and they're having it on their website, and students can go in and they can find all this content and engage with it without having to go inside of Kahoot. And the cool thing is, how many people here know ghost mode? Okay, half, that's good. What happens here is this one has then been played by one of the top snowboarders in the world, and you can click on the link and you can play against him. So you can play this cool Kahoot, but against the top snowboarder. And he then started playing English and geography, and you're playing against a character they know, and it's super motivating in ghost mode. So basically, ghost mode is recording a game results and playing it back, and we'll show it to you afterwards. I'm just showing you this video because what's super exciting with the Kahoot, and you saw the video, is people are using it in new modern ways. Here is the X Games. That's going to happen in Austin in the summer, in Oslo, and the live stream is happening, but people don't have tickets. So they come in and they play Kahoot, they learn about all the stuff around skateboarding, and then they actually watch the stream afterwards and they're more informed. The grandparents came and played with their kids. And of course, for the same as me, I learned a lot about tricks and stuff that made the experience better afterwards, because I got informed. So we call this beyond the classroom, when people take stuff they've had in the classroom and they use it in the environment outside. And of course, it just connects things and it's more motivating when you're back in the classroom again, you're using the same tools. And the part here that's important for us is we want this to be free for school We want this to be free for learners. We want this to be free in education. So when it comes to beyond the classroom process, those students are going to go out and get a job. When they go into their job, there's going to be a corporate world. In the corporate world, you pay. So the corporate world will be paying for Kahoot to make it available for you guys. So if we do our job, that's how it's going to be. And the promise is it will always be a basic free version, and companies will be paying for it. And it's already happening. They're volunteering. They could use it for free, but they're choosing to pay because they truly believe in this, and it's so effective for them. So that's something to talk back to the classrooms and say, top bankers are using it, and if you want to be a banker, play Kahoot. And here's the example of it. The Norwegian Teleco playing Kahoot with thousands of their employees and 3,000 seniors learning about the internet. People who haven't been able to use their smartphone to book tickets to go on the train. In Norway, you have to use your smartphone soon to get on the train. You can do, of course, go and pay elsewhere, but on the bus, you have to do this. So actually training them in these massive settings, Kahoot is super effective. And people feel they're seen. Like the one over here, he feels seen because his name is up there. It's impossible to do without tools like Kahoot to feel seen. Or you can see on your device that I'm just behind the other one, and that's cool, and you're discussing, and you're making a friend. This one, oh, I love this one. So where in the world do people play Kahoot? Look at this. This is from 2013 until now. You'll see how it's spreading around the world. When you're playing Kahoot, you're part of a global community. These are people who have signed up to Kahoot and are creating Kahoots. And here you're getting to August, September 2014. See what's happening here around Sydney. You'll see start growing. Japan. Look at Israel over here. So these communities are building up around the globe. That, of course, once you enter into Kahoot, you are connecting with this world.
I started using Kahoot as a way to review things that we've learned in kind of a fun way.
I would try it in my classes. I wasn't sure if it would be too chaotic, and the kids loved it.
What I found about Kahoot that makes it the most effective tool for learning, or one of the most effective ones, was the philosophical foundation that I came to understand about having the question that's posed to the students on the big screen as opposed to being on their devices or their laptops.
And it also makes them collaborate a little bit more too, so they're really talking and learning from each other and not just from me about what we're discussing in the Kahoot.
Before we pass over to Daniela to facilitate the next game of Kahoot, just going to explain to you what a blind Kahoot is. Has anyone heard the phrase blind Kahoot before? Okay. Very soon we're going to be meeting the person that coined that phrase, but what we're going to do here is play a game of Kahoot to introduce things which are brand new, or at least we think they're going to be brand new. So this is a way of teaching new concepts through facilitating a game of Kahoot.
Wait, super did. Norway? Yes. You heard about it?
This is actually a pretty funny video from Monty Python about Norway. It's very accurate as well.
Give you a little bit of why also we're doing Kahoot when we started out as well. It wasn't purely because we wanted to fix the BlackBerry Player. It was also because we wanted to connect education with the world we lived in after we had graduated and we were in the working life, and we felt that why don't kids have more work experience? Why didn't I have more working experience? Why weren't I more connected with the real world? And actually, why don't I know more about the software and the things I'm using? You know, I'm using all this stuff, and why don't I know more about it? So there's another part of also we want to be a very open company. We want to share kind of how the tools they're learning with are created. So please connect with us. We're more than happy to Skype into your classroom or hang out with them. We're more than happy to do this. And Steph, which is she here now? It's not here, but one of our employees, it's almost what she spends most of her time, is to connect with your classrooms and share and just unravel what our business is all about, because that might inspire some of them to get into the same field later on.
Cool, I think everyone's in the game now, so we'll
Some still with their
try it again. And just one small thing as well, if you notice in the top left corner there's an arrow, and what that does is minimises the top instructions so that you can see all of the players. Did any of you know that?
So the question, do you know you can kick out players?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, you should know that already.
These are the sad
Cool, so let's play. And let's see how you answer this one. What do you think Kahoot is best for? Now, there aren't any points on this question. It's all subjective, so just give your opinion on this one.
Okay, who was going to say to spark discussion around important topics? Yep. Is that how you would normally use it in your classroom?
Yes, I think it's, I do use it for reviewing, but I believe, and I always tell my students, I make a deal and I tell them if a certain amount miss this question, we're going to have a discussion about it. Why is this incorrect? What's the cause and effect? And then we have a discussion about why that's correct or why the others are incorrect. So absolutely.
Spot the difference. And what this is there's two pictures next to each other, so the ones on the left and the ones on the right. What do you think the differences are in those pictures? Oh, so you see the timer was a bit quicker that time. So
When we talk about game design, that's a very good technique. It keeps people alert. It changes the tempo of the game.
And the music is different as well, so it's a lot snappier when it's a shorter countdown. And that's good that you've all answered quiet learning versus loud learning, because we're not trying to say that either way of learning is better, it's just very different. And at Kahoot, obviously, we're focusing on the right-hand side, the loud learning aspect, so the playful, social learning environment.
An average game of Kahoot is about 15 minutes. So we think if you have about 15 minutes of that activity, the rest of that class could be quite interesting and more likely to maybe do more focused tasks or more widely tasks, depending on how you structure the game.
Well done, Steph. How many students are pumping their fists in the air? Now you'll have to look closely for this one, it's a bit tricky.
If you answer too early, you're probably guessing.
Yeah, so it's actually 12.
You got it right.
Really?
It's because you're close.
And who liked this GIF reveal? Did you? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I like that.
So this is a bit tied into what we were saying earlier, that we see our users do these things, so they kind of hack our platform. So what they've done here is they've made this using Photoshop, or we've made this one actually, but our users do this often using Photoshop, Flash, Keynote, tools which enable you to create those animations. But of course, because we see this happening more and more, we can see that this actually creates a different game dynamic. This encourages actually what you guys were talking about. People have to be a bit more thoughtful in this one, because you have to take your time, otherwise you're not going to get it correct.
But the anticipation is cool as well. That's what I like about it. It's an anticipation, and you're looking for the answers. You get all the kind of the right motions.
Why would you share a Kahoot Ghost Mode link with someone else? There you go. Well done.
So
I'll reshow this.
Who hasn't used Ghost Mode before?
I haven't used it.
And do you know what it is yet?
I think I do now.
Yeah.
I have copied. Maybe I haven't. I have copied the link onto my webpage.
Okay, so people can go to your website and play your Ghost Mode game.
Is that okay? Well,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
I
a great way to do it.
If you go to My Results on Kahoot, you get this list up with every game you ever played. You can download it, or you can replay it there then, or you can share the link with others. So the point is, if you played a game of Kahoot with your class and you'd like them to maybe repeat it a week later, instead of just repeating it, you can actually play against their previous result a week earlier. So, and then of course, if they have either been doing better or worse, then they'll do that. But other part we've seen that people can also replay against each other and get a win because they're beating themselves, because they can see their own progression by doing better.
Yes, it's a different way to learning through repetition, great for revision, but also there's this challenge aspect as well. If you want to challenge other students to beat yours remotely, you can share the link in that way. We'll be touching a lot more on challenges later. What's the maximum number of players who can play in one game of Kahoot currently? So we've got this kid who you've already seen. He's live streaming his Kahoot via you now to hit all his friends, and they all just join in.
You can probably just...
What's up, dude? Yo, there it is. There it is. There's the code.
Yeah, so there is, in theory, no upper limit on the amount of players that can play a Kahoot at one time. In real life, the most we've had is the 3,000 that you saw at the Telenor event in Norway with the seniors. But we've tested with about 10,000, in theory, players. But yeah, there should be no upper cap.
And in the back room is our head of development, and
to take it
Please
up?
let us know before you try, because those 10,000 are robots, we would like to know before you give it a go.
And our challenge to you is to, can you beat the world record? More than 3,000 people.
Cool, and well done, Annie, you're the highest climber. Has anyone noticed the highest climber feature before? It doesn't show up on every question, but it appears every few questions, and what that does is help the students that aren't on the leaderboard. They're then motivated again if they become the highest climber.
I've never seen it before.
When designing a Kahoot, remember to
It's time to shine. In today's episode of Good Game Design, we'll look at the silent storytelling principle. Most games have a story of some sort, but there are different ways for a game to tell it. Some do this through cutscenes or dialogue boxes, while others take a organic approach through gameplay. The silent storytelling principle is where you unravel the story of a game through your actions, rather than someone explaining it to you.
I think probably most people answered.
Cool. So we've sort of touched on that with Stephanie's awesome talk a bit earlier about really designing the game and thinking about a narrative to your game. And obviously the other options, you could do that, but it wouldn't create necessarily the best learning experience. By varying the time limit, by having different answer options, using survey questions mixed in with points questions, you can create a different, more exciting experience.
And what you can do is you can go in and find someone else's Kahoot that maybe have all the good questions, but you could go and duplicate it, but then build a narrative into it. And sometimes that's a nice way to start working with the new content and save some time.
Oh, well done, Amber and Shayna. So, look closely. Which was the first country in Africa to have a user sign up to Kahoot? So you've already
Come to the front if you want.
So you have to look really closely. So is it South Africa, Egypt, Mauritius, or Nigeria? It was Mauritius. I didn't know where that was. And you get bonus points if you know where it is on the map.
We show it. So it's here, located next to Madagascar. We thought it was
deceptive. But this is another game design technique, so the answer is revealed as the question unfolds. And we do actually actively encourage people to come to the front. It's what we call a campfire moment. And this is about changing the behaviours in the classroom that you see today.
And again, it's reinforcing that Kahoot is global, and there's lots of opportunities then to take your Kahooting with others globally. So we'll be talking about that more later as well. Oh, well done, Whitey.
Who's Whitey?
That's nice.
Whitey.
Oh yeah, Todd White. How many public Kahoots are on the platform? Answer fast, you've only got 5 seconds. So we kept you on your toes there. And most of you did answer, so well done. Yeah, there's actually 2 answers because there are 6.4 million public Kahoots on the platform. And double that in total with the private Kahoots added, but just the public one, 6.4 million. And also we wanted to show that 500,000, that's 500,000 Kahoots are added per month onto the platform.
Public.
Public ones,
So
yeah.
that means we have access to use them?
Yeah.
Exactly, you have all this content on the platform on any subject whatsoever.
And 250,000 of them are made by teachers. So of course, something happened yesterday like a thunderstorm. It might be in today's Kahoot made by someone who's talking about thunderstorms, but yesterday's news will be there. And that's the thing, that it makes it very much more relevant to someone than maybe the book could be. And also what we encourage, what happens there is people duplicate it and then make it local to them. So if it's something made in Alabama, you can localize it and put some stuff around it that is local for Texas. And that makes it so much more engaging and relevant.
And we're showing obviously here the ability to duplicate the Kahoot. So who here has actually duplicated a Kahoot before? Excellent. And you find it's a good time saver, right? It saves you to create from scratch. Awesome. Right, and it's the final question. What's a great way to help your students design their own Kahoots? And you've already seen a bit of this here as well. This is the students in Norway creating their own Kahoots. So you can see they're working on both pen and paper and a device. So where does it really start? You want to set them a challenge, and that's awesome that so many of you chose that as well. So put them into groups, and what's also interesting is they get to assign roles to their team. So you have one person sort of leading that, one person researching, one person writing up the questions and answers.
What we see actually at the moment is a lot of our users do it and they share them online. So there's actually a lot online that you can download, and we promote them. So we can share them with you. Yep. So I'm going to invite Stephanie up to the stage now. I first met Stephanie a year ago. I went into her school in New York, the United Nations International School. And she very excitedly told me, I'm going to show you today a blind Kahoot. And I didn't know what a blind Kahoot was. So do you want to explain to everyone here, in your words, what a blind Kahoot is?
I'm going to give credit essentially way back when to a colleague of mine who, I don't know how many of you have Promethean and the Promethean clickers, but he had said, oh, well, you know, I've set up these questions on the Promethean board and I'm going to teach oxidation numbers. So I'm a high school bio teacher, I also teach chemistry, and we're teaching an awful lot of the time some very complex processes. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. And I had just learned about Kahoot, and previously I was very much using it for, you know, review, and here's a set of questions, and let's review this. And at that moment, my thinking started to change very much so, and I thought, well, wait a second, what if we could use it to completely introduce a topic that they had never seen before? And so we started using it with oxidation numbers in chemistry, and then being a bio teacher, I then started to use it to introduce concepts in biology, and the most recent one that I think they featured recently was actually took place last week, and I did a blind Kahoot to teach the concepts of mitosis. And so the concept of a blind Kahoot is that we can structure our Kahoots very much like we structure our lessons plans. So when you think about designing a lesson, you think about the kind of questions that you're going to ask your students, and based on their responses, what is your next question going to be to either reinforce that or to questioning as a form of formative assessment. Then you can structure your Kahoot in a very similar fashion. The concept is that you start the Kahoot where they don't know anything beforehand. So the first question is always a very interesting one, because if they don't know anything beforehand, they're essentially guessing. And if you have a classroom full of 24 kids, they're looking at you going, miss.
The interesting thing I found about that when I was there was that actually no one got it right. But I think you told me you call that a leveler.
Yeah, so the first question is kind of, I say it levels the playing field, because if there's a number of you that have played it before, you know that you've got kids in the class that are consistently at the top, and then other kids that consistently maybe don't get on the leaderboard. But if you do a blind Kahoot and you're starting with something they've never seen before, then the first question completely levels the playing field. Nobody knows what to answer. And then all of the questions from that point forward are informed by the previous question. So the key to designing something like a blind Kahoot is very much in the structure, in the kind of question you ask, and in particular the order in which you ask them. So one of the things that I considered when I looked at the Kahoot that I did last week and I looked at the results, I realized that there are actually 4 categories of the kinds of questions that I structure it with. So the first one is an introductory kind of question that sets a context for the kids. So I don't know how many people are science teachers, but mitosis is a form of cell division. So my first question was, you know, mitosis is, and set the context so they knew what they were dealing with. Then you have the blind questions, which are the ones that they know nothing. They have to guess, most of them. They may guess right, they may guess wrong. You can then take a moment to inform as to why the right answer was the right answer, and thus you have shared a piece of information. Following a blind question directly is always a reinforcing question. So it follows directly off the blind question. It gives them an opportunity to apply what they have just learned to that. And if you continue to structure that as you get towards the end of the Kahoot, so it's maybe 20 questions, if that, 20 to 30, then towards the end, you can have what I coined as compound reinforcing questions, or otherwise like application, which is where you may have taught 2 or 3 concepts blindly. So in the case of mitosis, I taught them what a chromosome is, what a chromatid is, and so on and so forth. I got to the end and I said, okay, based on all of these things, what's this? And so you're asking to apply several different concepts that you've learned previously in a culminating question. And through about 20 to 30 questions, we've managed to teach oxidation numbers, mitosis, a whole range of processes. but it's all in the planning. It's all in the planning and the structure of the game.
I can quote you. You said 10 or 20 questions later, they know the topic inside out from scratch, which I actually saw happen, and it was amazing. Can you talk a bit more about the creation of the game? Because one of the things I noticed was how you use this kind of repetition or scaffolding, particularly through the imagery you created.
Yeah, so the example that I'm referring to, the Cell Division one, you know, the beginning wasn't actually sitting in front of the Kahoot creation scheme. The beginning was I sat down with a bunch of pieces of paper, because the classic way of teaching that is, oh, here's a series of diagrams, they're in this order, so on and so forth. So I thought, well, if I was trying to describe these diagrams, what would be the order of my questioning? What would the first thing be that I would want them to know? And if they know that, then what could they answer thereafter? So if they know this is a chromosome, I give them another question. Could they tell me that that's two chromosomes, or are they going to, you know, they're going to answer something different? I mean, it's a very simple progression. The progression is not complex. And so it started with me producing a sequence of diagrams. All I did was screenshot all of them, and that became my sequence of questions. But it's really important that within that sequence, whenever you answer a blind question, it's always followed by a question that allows them to reinforce and apply that information. So they get the blind question wrong, they learn something from that, and they apply it to the next one. And that's how the learning takes place throughout the Kahoot as the game is played.
So more on the playing side, can you talk about how you facilitate that? Because one of the things I noticed is that obviously as the game progresses, you can tell which students are starting to grasp it before the other ones.
Yeah.
I remember you asked those students to be explaining it.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever I share a blind Kahoot, the group that did it last week, you're going to hear from some of my students in a minute, God bless them. I do always tell them, first of all, we're going to play a blind Kahoot. So, because otherwise they're taken a little by surprise. They think they should know the first question, right? What is a blind Kahoot? So I tell them, well, I'm not going to tell you anything. That doesn't always go down well. But as you go through and the results come up on the board, you can ask those students who have applied correctly to say, okay, well, why did you choose that? So you were alluding to this, you know, in between you have this discussion as to why did you make that choice, in what way did you apply your previous information to deduce what I've been asking you here. As the game goes on as well, you want to keep track of those kids that you might be losing. So we all know, you know, we have classes of 24, 30, 20, whatever kind of school you're in. It's possible that you can lose students through this. So as the game goes on, in between each question, I give a very short commentary, maybe 30 seconds if that. This is why this was correct, so just to establish. And in later questions, I have started giving kind of an opt-out. So one of the 4 options is my head hurts, or I'm lost. And then I get kind of a tag when the results come up. If I see a few hitting that, then I know it's kind of a desperate, I'm really lost, and I then know to facilitate a bit further than maybe I had been. So it is kind of trial and error. You do monitor your class as you go through, but then as I said, we do that as educators through our lessons anyway. It's just that you're using the Kahoot to facilitate that learning in a way that you might not have been doing before.
So Stephanie doesn't see herself as a game designer, but to us, she's very much thinking how game designers think. She's building a narrative and a story through her Kahoots, and then the way she guides it is how a game is guided. You want people to feel success at various points, but you also need to provide challenges within that, and that's how games progress. So before we show the video of her students, do you want to just explain that this was definitely not scripted?
So I knew that I was going to come and share this idea this week. You know, I think as educators, when we latch onto something that really alters the way that our students learn in the classroom, you very much want to share that with fellow educators. And I'd said to my students, we played it on mitosis last week, I said, look, you know, I'm going to play this is how you're going to learn mitosis. When I'm away next week, you're going to make an animation, so just so you know. And I said, oh, by the way, if any of you mind being interviewed at the end, they'd really like to hear from you because your voice matters more than anyone else's. What do you want us to say? I said, I don't know. Say whatever comes to your mind, just have a conversation with me. So it was all of a 5-minute conversation. I just held the iPhone right there. But it is heartwarming what they said, and in many ways, kind of a relief. Because I heard them say these things and I thought, well, that's awesome that they had that experience. So it is very candid, but welcome to my students. My students. My students. My students.
students. No, but like I've never heard of them before. I had no idea what it was.
Prior to the Kahoot, I had not studied mitosis.
No, I've never studied mitosis before.
I've never studied mitosis before.
It was definitely at the start pretty challenging. I think that.
But the questions were like easier to understand.
Yeah,
just looking at a diagram, so it was easier.
Yeah.
But we had to get the gist of it.
Yeah, it took a couple questions to get into like a rhythm.
It was a bit stressful and confusing at first, but then as it went on, we just got the hang of it and it became easy.
Yeah, because I didn't know what it was going to be on since I've never studied it before, so I was kind of nervous. But as the Kahoot went on, I then got the idea of it, and each question followed, like the answer to this question followed the next question. So I kind of got I started understanding it.
It kind of built on every question was followed by something that was related to it, and you could determine what the answer to the next question was based on what we answered in the last one.
Well, since each question was built off the last one, we were able to add that knowledge to answer the next question.
And definitely even like we kind of knew what kind of information to retain because we got the gist of it as well.
And there are also like different sections for like new parts of this parts of mitosis. Like there were different parts of the Kahoot stages.
Yeah.
It was nice that we, like, if I got a question wrong the first time, like the next question would be related to it, but it wouldn't be the same, but you'd still be able to like fix your mistake, I guess. So.
Better because I had the knowledge to fill it out.
We already
had
doing
it.
Yeah.
Blind.
We already had the sort of vocabulary and definitely.
I felt like I understand the process. Maybe like I could use some going over it and just asking some specific questions, but I got the general idea.
Yeah, taking the Kahoot before we did the activity, I think it was easier for me because the Kahoot explained it easier. I then understood everything that was happening, so the activity was very easy for me.
If I could just add a little bit to the end there, to share with you the activity they did afterwards. The classic is to put the sequence of diagrams in order for that process. So I did give that to them directly afterwards. So there's no direct teaching on my part. It was the Kahoot and then it was that. And I'm prepared to put myself out there, I just thought of this, that while I'm here this week, those same students have been asked to animate it using stop motion. So they had one lesson where half was the Kahoot and the second half was putting the diagrams together with annotations. And then this week they were asked to animate it based off of that one lesson. They're having 3 lessons this week that I'm not here, I'm not with them. And I am quite happy to share that work. They've all allowed me to share their interview and their work. So if you're interested in following me at Castle Stephanie on Twitter, I will tweet out those animations that they have put together. And you now know the background. You know it was one lesson with a Kahoot and an activity following it, and then I'm not there this week. So what they produce at the end is essentially as a result of that one lesson where we did the blind Kahoot.
And what's interesting about this is we're going to demonstrate the new creator later, and that's designed mobile first. So one of the best things you can do is take photos of anything around you, which could be drawings that you've done yourself, and embed them directly into your Kahoots.
And if you do try it yourself, hashtag blind Kahoot, I'd love to see other examples of what everyone else is teaching.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I had a huge engagement from the kids. They were very excited. They collaborated. None of them had their heads held in their devices. And it just created an atmosphere that I hadn't had in my classroom before.
Never thought until today about using Kahoot as an instructional tool. Until today, I just thought of it as an assessment piece, but I see it in a whole new light.
I mean, they cheer when I say, all right, open a Kahoot. They're like, yes! They get all excited. So that excites me when they're excited.
I think they like it because they see Kahoot as a game. They don't really see it as learning. I mean, they're hollering, they're out of their seats, they're jumping around, but it is learning. So it just takes the boring stuff and makes it fun for kids.
Okay, so now we're going to do something brand new. The guys that were in the show and tell yesterday will have already seen this. So we're going to introduce this new feature called Team Mode. So Team Mode is where you use one device for a group of people in a team. Very simple. We see this happening a lot already, classrooms which don't have one-to-one. But also, this is a way of encouraging the collaboration, discussion, loud learning that we talked about at the very beginning. What's interesting about it is it actually creates a different loud learning environment. What you're going to see is when we play team mode, it is going to be very loud.
Yes,
that's a
feel free
good
to be
thing.
loud.
That is a good thing. So please be loud. However, we did also learn a new trick earlier, which you guys probably already know, the double clap. If you hear that, that's because we'll probably move on to the next bit. So before we start team mode and pass over to Kaya, we're just going to show very quickly what team mode is through the user interface. So typically on the launch screen, you get this green button to launch the game. What will happen once we roll out team mode is that classic way of playing is now called classic, and there's a new button there, that's for team mode. So you can launch any game in classic or team. When you launch in team, it then asks your audience, your students, to get together in teams, so you can organize them in teams however you wish. The teams can be of any size, probably like 3, 4, 5 is the optimum amount. And then on their device, it will recognize that they've joined the game, which is a team game. And they'll get this new screen over here, which says team mode. So they enter a team name. And then once they submit their team name, that will appear on the front. We'll show that in a second. And they'll get prompted to add the names of each individual within that team. Once they join that, it will display on their device. And then what you see at the front of the room is their teams. So the team name plus all the players. Very simple, but it creates different learning experience.
Can you X out one that's inappropriate?
You can just delete a whole team if you wanted to. Yeah.
And that device will turn red, so you'll know who they are.
And then, of course, celebrating the winning team as well. So this is a way of making, someone mentioned it previously actually, that this is a way for people to feel progress together.
And maybe you have bad Wi-Fi and you need to have less devices on the network. Just saying. Then, of course, getting people in groups together is also another way of compensating for that, or lack of devices if you're not a one-to-one program, and so on and so on.
So this game that we're going to play in team mode is going to be about challenges. So we're going to set some challenges for you guys to share some different ways to use Kahoot. So what you see is the team name comes onto the screen first, so you're in the game. And then when the players are added, they appear below.
Okay, everyone in? Perfect. Off we go.
Who's up for a challenge?
It's good that you were thinking about it, though.
So you already heard quite a bit about ghost mode, so it's good to see that one on top.
Texas teacher.
Awesome. Did you copyright that team name?
That's the way to make creation.
Yes.
Interesting.
So the suggestion here was the next election should be on Kahoot.
But on that, using ghost mode, you can play a game and then challenge someone else. So maybe you will play a game in your class and they'll challenge a local politician. Or do it the other way around. Have a local politician playing a game and then having it into your classroom afterwards.
We talked about connecting the classroom with the world you're entering. So, and we know this earlier session, we had someone here who used a professional. He said, of course, it'll be fun for our company to connect with the classroom and play against each other and creating that barrier, sort of breaking that barrier down. So it's a great idea.
So could we have a teacher share theirs with us and then?
Yeah.
We do that?
Yes. Okay. So a teacher can share it, or an office can make it, and yeah, so you can make and create and share.
And even a bit easier, you can play a game, share the Ghost Mode link with your students, the yellow option here. That's a pretty neat way of passing on a little challenge home with the
Maybe
students.
before exams, you play it and they have to play against you, right?
Can you beat your teacher on this topic? So you could do that on a Kahoot you created yourself, or something you find. And of course you can do it classroom versus classroom. Maybe you teach several classes and you can have them competing against each other. Well, there are lots of other ways of doing it. You will see soon.
Picky pigs.
Picky pigs.
I like that.
At the back.
Yes, in the back. Great. Good name. What is not a good reason to challenge others in Ghost Mode? Discussing your
Well done.
And you can see 3 good reasons for why you should use Ghost Mode.
And I think with the PD sessions, what was mentioned earlier was get students to play and then bring the students' Ghost Mode into the PD sessions, because you can actually focus a lot on the students, but in the PD sessions as well.
Yeah. I already spoke to a couple of you running lots of sessions for professional development. Maybe you want to play a game of Kahoot in one of the sessions and then bring a Ghost Mode link from that session to your next session. And then you can say, oh, I went to that other district the other day and we played this game, let's see if you guys can beat them. Would that be something? Yeah.
You could even take students' ghosts and play in the PD session.
Nice. Picky pigs on top.
Oh, we have a new entry here. It's. Is that, who's that?
How do you know if you're using Ghost Mode effectively?
Who got caught out by when your students build their own Kahoot apps? So of course the reason here is that we don't have apps, so it's just sometimes building in language that catches people out, and they do find it funny, and it actually works well in the game design.
Quite a few of you like the idea of students challenging their parents with a game from the past. Have any of you experienced that? You have. Will you tell us about it?
I have a child who regularly takes Kahoots home and he challenges his whole family, and then he creates Kahoots on his own and has full family mode. So like all the family has to get it, grandparents, aunts, uncles.
Awesome.
Wow. That's amazing.
Does he bring it back into class and play with his classmates?
Yes, and sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge because then that's all the kids want to do. So when they have like
There's nothing wrong with that.
that's all they do is sit and play his Kahoots.
Perfect. No.
How can you set up a classroom versus classroom challenge through a connected Kahoot?
Interesting.
Fax is definitely out.
Yeah.
Okay. You gotta face it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Send a fax or something.
It's interesting here with the yellow option to contact other users on the Kahoot platform. How many of you would like to do that? Because that's not possible to do today. What was the question? Oh, it's not.
If you can connect with other users on our platform.
Maybe you have to request like a Facebook. The only way you can do that today is by knowing other usernames and then share Kahoots with them. But then you already know them, so then you are connected.
So we're looking into building a feature so that you can actually, through the Kahoot platform, connect with other teachers. At the moment, you have to go to social media. You have to go to Facebook, Twitter, be part of communities. But wondering if do allow it to happen inside the platform if that's a request. In the beginning, we thought, no, you're already on Twitter. We don't have to build another platform. But it sounds like more and more people are saying, actually, no, I'd like to connect with that super creator, Stephanie, and connect with her through the platform.
So you're saying that if I go and find a public Kahoot, that there's no way in there to contact that person?
No, at the moment there's
not.
no.
But
Yeah.
you're not able to see an email or any other information.
Oh.
But if you want to contact our users, you can go to Facebook in our Facebook community, and you can post in there, and there's 10,000s of people in there you can connect with, or your other groups you already have within your network.
How many of you are already on our Facebook community page? The community page, only
Yeah.
for
On the Facebook.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a good place to get to know other.
And also, how many people here have ever played a connected Kahoot? So that's where you use screen sharing, one classroom against another, Skype, Google Hangouts appear in.
There's a good chance. A lot of teachers here now. Screen share against your classrooms, and then have a competition. And the discussion you can have also about people answering different in different areas is super interesting. So you become very aware of why people are asking what they're asking, and maybe do a survey, not a game, and you can have topics.
Some of the amazing things we see is actually classrooms on different sides of the world connecting.
Yeah, South Africa are playing against Norway around identity for 13-year-old girls. Super interesting, because they got to discuss it and they realize actually how similar it is to be 13-year-olds wherever you are in the world.
And it's a lot easier to run a connected Kahoot than to just have a Skype call with someone where you sit there and wave and try to communicate a whole class on one side with a whole class on the other side. Then they play the game at first, and then they might email each other afterwards or split into groups and have small chats with each other.
And what you'll see now as we go forward with the team mode, of course, we do rely on people being able to put good teams together, so it takes a bit of time for managing this, because the second you're not part of a good team, you're on the outside. So these are things also we're trying to figure out. So when you're playing now, we're analyzing how you guys are playing so we can optimize this.
Cool.
Next.
Let's see. How can you scale up your connected Kahoots?
Do you like vegetables? How is this like a quiz? I'm kind of confused. Is this like on your podcast or something? Is this like a health test? Like, I mean, no,
I took Koreans. I got it because I saw the
Okay, so first of all, I'm pretty sure.
Look at all the people you have on this Kahoot.
I got it. I lost my I mean, I know what I was doing. I knew that.
Well done, guys. You all picked up on that already. You have a story on this.
Yeah, there's a couple of really good stories with this one. One is we had a school district in California who used Twitch, which is a gaming streaming service, and they streamed a live Kahoot to every classroom in the district.
127 classrooms in Manteca School District played a game of Kahoot against each other.
And then another really good example, Stephanie again. She live streamed a game to students all around the world, a global review session ahead of the IB biology exams. So she has students from Zimbabwe, Vietnam, Spain, all around the world joining one game. And what happened there was they used the chat service to recreate the discussions that happen when you play in the same classroom environment.
Well, you can do it more locally now. We don't have Kahoot TV yet, I wish, but you have your local TV broadcast and stuff inside the class. The students are doing so. In Ian's school district around here, the students created the Kahoot game that was broadcast every classroom and using just the classroom broadcasting.
Oh no, it's snow day.
Or maybe tornado day.
With your students when they're at home. Cool. Yes, so you can definitely send them a Go Smooth link. Okay. You got that now. Cool. Do you remember how to do it now? Good. Very good.
And also
you
this,
also
yeah.
have a live game of Kahoot through a streaming service.
And sometimes this is like if you have a student who can't attend class, why don't let them just Skype in and be able to take part through the gaming, and they're more connected with that classroom because their name and they're doing and they're there in the room. And we see this with offices where you have a distant office. We do it here with our company. We have live Kahoots between Oslo, London and Austin, and we do our weekly planning, and we have a connected Kahoot, and we're more connected to each other, and we're answering, and we're doing our weekly planning, and we're prepping for the next week.
That's a blind Kahoot combined with a connected Kahoot.
It's getting very advanced here. Cool, next one.
Yeah. So, who's going to create a blind Kahoot? There's no points here, but lots and lots.
It's a bit of a survey for us. Yes. Yes. You're not biased at all, are you? Awesome.
We're happy about that. How can you assess your learners' Kahoots?
You have to be quick on this one. Ah, cool.
Interesting.
So let's take a look at this rubric again.
So this rubric was created by a user, I think in Texas actually. And what he's done is he's set everything up from how the students set up their projects, how they research, how they gather their information, how they create questions, how they structure the questions, how they create imagery and video that they embed into it, and then through to the playing side. So how they actually present, what are their presentation skills like, how do they explain the correct answers, how they explain the incorrect answers. And this is really what we mean by learners to leaders. What's amazing about this is he's embedded this into his curriculum, into his lesson plans. So he's actually using this as a project-based learning thing. So they're creating their projects in Kahoot.
You're doing well here. How do you get your Kahoots featured?
Well, hey, wow. I definitely think these are turning into easy questions. Actually, in the next session, we're going to talk about creating Kahoots and how you can make your Kahoots packaged in a way where people are more attracted to play them in their classes, to build reputations on our platform. Yes, you can still send us chocolate as well if you want. And we've explicitly designed the new creator to enable Kahoots to be made better, easier. So they're the things we're going to talk about next.
Last one.
Oh, this is a tough question. Do you accept our challenge? Challenging us to lead, challenging us.
That was fast.
That was quick. Who answered, no, I need more time to prepare?
It was an accident.
No. But it's fair enough. In our earlier class, someone said, this is, we'd like to have more time and be able to have this masterclass and have more time to actually do things with you guys. So they were requesting a full day with us. So we said, okay, if you really think you would like a full day, we might plan a full day because this is a quick-paced masterclass.
How about you here? Would you like that as well?
Yes.
Do you want a full day if we put on a full day?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I have to do that then. Cool.
It's better to start planning.
For the gaming thing, would y'all ever make it to where they would tell which kid would have to do it? So that way one
That's a nice
doesn't
idea.
take it,
That's a good.
I stole it from them the entire time.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean this is our absolute first iteration of team mode, and we're looking at many ways how we can get the teams more integrated together and even foster even more collaboration. So, come with suggestions.
And the winning team.
Picky pigs.
Yeah.
Picky pigs. So Steph, Andy, Tyler, and Kat. Awesome. So while he's doing that, just now we're going to demo the new creator tool that all of you will get access to if you don't already have it. So by end of play today, you'll have access to the new creator tool. And then after that, we'll demo new features that we're working on from our labs, which you won't have access to, but you can influence.
So when you get given access, you'll see this purple bar appear. And if you click on the green Go to Preview button, you're in the new creator. Rather than creating one from fresh, I'm just going to go in and edit an existing one. So I press the edit button. The first thing you'll notice as I turn it here is we have this brand new screen called the overview screen. So we've been talking about game design a lot and building narratives and structures into your Kahoots, and this is the perfect way to do it because rather than the existing creator where it's a very linear process and you have to get through the process to be able to see the overview is always present in this experience. So it displays all of your questions. If you had none there, you would just see the button which says Add Question. So you'll add a question. What I'm going to do here is if everyone wants to wave, I'm going to take a photo directly from this device.
They're early, eager
wavers. I'm not going to be able to get everyone in, but there we go. So I use this photo, and as that loads, it might take a bit of time to load because, as we know, the internet's been a bit sketchy today. I'm just going to write a very simple question.
And think about the workflow here, because you can work on your laptop and do all the texting, but maybe you want to take a picture of something, and then you can do it on your phone. Put it into Kahoot, save it, go back to your laptop, and continue working on the same one because it's mobile first and it's one experience throughout.
So that image has very nearly loaded. Any moment now it's going to appear into the question. There we go. So, Stephanie's already shown that she draws diagrams. You could take photos on your mobile phone or your tablet, embed them straight into the Kahoot. What if you were to go on a field trip? Create a Kahoot as you walk around. Maybe you get a bus to work. Save some time on your mobile phone, take photos. There's many, many applications for this. And of course, one of the biggest ones is in classrooms where you have bring your own device. Maybe you want to challenge your students to create Kahoots. Maybe they could do it on their mobile phones. So you can change the length of the question, as you can in today's creator.
And it changes the music when you change the length of the questions.
So I'm just going to put a couple of answer choices in for now, just simple ones. Choose the correct one. Now this is new here, credit resources. So if you're using it's very simple. You can just put in a link or type the name of the photographer, for example, and you're crediting the people that created the resources that you're using.
You can also leave notes there to whoever else is going to play it, guides and so on.
So then when you submit that question, it just gets added to the bottom of your questions. As you can see, we've done this 3 times today now. So actually, when you create a Kahoot brand new from the start, the first screen you will actually see is this one, the description screen. So up front, we're encouraging you to create a title and give your Kahoot a description, but you can go in and edit it at any point. And what you'll see we've done is we've merged the 2 fields, which are the description and the tags that we have today, because what we're seeing is not many people are actually adding tags, and we want to start to build communities on our platform. So the way you do that now is very much how you would do it on Instagram or Twitter. Use hashtags, it's very simple. And then when you look at the Kahoot overview pages, you can click on those hashtags and drill down to all the public Kahoots which are being tagged the same. So for example, like we mentioned earlier, you might want to use the curriculum or standards tags of the topics that you're teaching. And if you do that, then you can encourage other people to do it. And all of a sudden you're starting to build communities of users who are teaching the same content.
For example, masterclasses on Kahoot. It becomes a community around that with all the stuff we're doing on masterclasses for Kahoot as a hashtag, and you all can be part of that.
And because we really believe there's, as we said, 6.5 million public Kahoots available, we really believe this is a platform for you to connect with other users. We'll be evolving the platform, the features that we have for connecting. But one of the biggest ways to do that is to create awesome Kahoots. Yep. And because by creating awesome Kahoots, it will be picked up by other people. So we recommend catchy titles. We always recommend putting cover images because people click on things that look interesting. And of course, the description is super important because it helps give them an understanding of how the Kahoot was intended to be used. Why did you design it? How did you design it? And as Johan mentioned, if you use the resource fields as a way of making notes as well, you can tell other people what the intention was with each question.
Or maybe the rubric you're using to assess or have assessed and so on. The other thing we should also mention here is that because Kahoot believes in an open structure, means you are the ones who will align it to Common Core. So if you're making something you think is aligned to Common Core, you can do that in the description. But also we believe in bridging the gap. So maybe you actually take something from an accounting class, which is a university level, and so on and so on. So we really believe it's up to you and the groups you're joining into to kind of define your own tagging system as well that you might generate that you think is interesting. And we have people who are doing Portuguese, but they're spread between different countries, so there's no standard way of doing it, so they create their own tagging system. So you can adhere to whatever fits you, or an open one that you'd like to do.
On your overview, can you move the questions
Yes.
around?
Yeah.
You can do.
There you go.
Right,
You can.
those up and down arrows. Okay.
Yeah. So you can just restructure it, and this ties into what we were talking about, building narratives. Because it's only when you see the overview that you understand how it's starting to be planned out. That's why actually creating on paper first is very powerful. Hey, oh.
the option for the images?
Sorry.
Oh, the option for the images, for using the Olympic images?
Oh yes,
Practice screen.
yes, we can show you that. So this is something that we're working on at the moment. That maybe Johan wants to explain a bit more.
Yeah, I think here we worked with the Norwegian snowboarding organization and City of Oslo to get access to images which are relevant to winter sports, because we want to inspire the users to be, as we talked about, getting mathematics and sports together, for example. But we now want to talk to NASA and other organizations to make their libraries, vast libraries, available so you guys can get access to it, and of course the students can access to it and start adding it to their Kahoots, knowing also that they are fully licensed and ready to be used.
So I think there's two sides to that. There's one is that is engaging content that can spice up other content that maybe isn't so engaging all the time. And also it's a time saver as well. Sometimes you don't have time to go and find images and stuff, but you could just straight embed one of these images into the question, just like that.
When you first start using it, it's instant engagement. Anyone can figure it out.
I think it's the bright colors and then the music they like.
You had taking the tech tool and using it as a teaching tool.
And it's free, so it's always in the budget. It's just amazing that you can do so many things with it and you don't have to come out of pocket.
So now we're moving on to the final bit, maybe even the most exciting bit. So this is where we share some of the things we've been working on, which are a little bit further into the future. These are hacks, prototypes, research and development. If anyone was there yesterday, you will have seen all of this, but hopefully it's equally as exciting.
And what's super important for us with this is, as a company, we have 15 people now in Austin, just this week, and they'll come over, and the main reason we're here is to research, to listen and talk to you guys so that we can implement and do the right things. Some people are wondering why we're so slow with our developments, because we only want to do stuff that we think add value, not just the stuff that's fun. And we have even competitors sitting on our session, our show and tell session, and wondering why we're so open. And that's because we actually think this is a bigger playing field. So involving you guys, involving other ones, more people doing this, the more we'll learn from it, and the better tools we'll make for education. So come with any insights you have, because this is our biggest investment of the year, is to listen to you guys and get it into the products. And that's why we're showing you our labs work. Labs.
So this is a peek into the future. This famous equation is rendered live in the web browser. What is the equation? So there was quite a few maths teachers in the room, maybe some physics, chemistry.
I am impressed if you get it right, by the way.
There's a hint in the picture.
So this is what we call a leveling question, right? None of you know it, and we're all getting on the same level here. Okay, Jamie, have a go.
Okay, so we're going to end that one early. Of course, it was the minimal surface equation. Which four got it correct? Well done.
Well done.
So,
even the cameraman is playing.
What you see here is this equation has been generated through the creator. So, what maths teachers or physics or chemistry teachers do a lot is they will create an equation in another piece of software, screenshot it, upload it. It's a bit of an arduous process. What you can do with this is actually generate it through Kahoot using an integration called MathJax. What you'll also see is there's an image embedded in the background, so you can still give hints to students and players of the game through putting the equation on top of the imagery.
It's a bit like you saw with the angles on the snowboards earlier, but here it's live rendering instead.
And then it doesn't quite show up because we haven't styled it properly, but you can then spend this part of the game explaining it further and actually go and interact with it by zooming in. So it becomes much more interactive, particularly awesome for a blind Kahoot.
And the next step on this is actually Kahoots can be consequences. So actually, as you're answering, things can change because it's live rendering. You can be consequence-based as well, which is super exciting.
So next question, Wengler, was you? Yeah, well done. Although I think you might have played this one before.
Cheating. She learns. So
that is true. That is very true.
I'm totally wrong.
Okay, the Fresnel effect is the observation that the amount of reflectance you see on a surface, and if the internet's going to work, here we go. So what you can see I'm doing here is interacting directly with the 3D world that is in the game. I'm giving you some hints by the way I'm moving the world around. We've embedded this one 3D world. You can embed any because there's thousands from all around the web which are embeddable. You could, for example, find a reenactment of a historic event, embed it into your Kahoot. There's plenty of things you could do.
By the way, this is where the image picker or the libraries become exciting, right? When you can start getting access to these libraries of content.
Next question. Now we're going to explore the heart. It has the job of keeping blood flowing through how many blood vessels? So what I'm going to do here is actually explore the heart. So I can zoom in on it. I can move around. I can select parts of it. I can explain it. I can even tell you what it is.
That was a bit bad. So of course you can, as you're exploring it, the heart, you can make it difficult or easier by actually unraveling what's going on.
And again, this can be 3D visualizations of anything because this content already exists around the world. And it makes Kahoot, it emphasizes the instructional side of playing Kahoot. So very much ties into the blind Kahoots that we were talking about earlier. Still winning?
Tonya.
Well
Who's
done.
Tonya? Tonya? No. You're the highest climber. So you're not on top 5, but you are the highest climber.
So now we're exploring the Taj Mahal. When was it built? So this is using simply Google Street View. Google Street View has pretty much everywhere on Earth.
And if it was my mom, who's an art historian, she was talking to me about how things are built in different periods, and of course giving me the hint of when it was in the time.
So you could, for example, reveal the answer as you explore the world. So it's kind of similar to the GIFs and the animations we showed earlier, but something that you actually guide your students through.
Or if you revisit it, you can explain the reasons why.
Put these historic events in chronological order from...
On your devices now, see what happens to them.
Look at your devices.
That's awesome.
Okay, so now you so now you can see you can order.
So
you just drag it, correct?
We will emphasize at this point that this is very much a prototype and experimental.
That is weird.
But it changes the game because someone can complete early and others can complete later. So it changes the dynamic, and of course an early one can help out and so on and so on. But it changes the whole dynamic of how the Kahoot runs. It's because it's not right. So if it's not correct, it goes back in, and then you have to reassemble it. So it's like a puzzle. And if you get it right and everything works, you'll see correct on your screen. And if you get it correct, you can't replica with your neighbor. You probably were guessing.
So I'm going to end this one now. So what we've done here is we've put questions in chronological order. You could put them in numeric order, for example. You could take sentences and jumble them up and ask students to put them in correct order. If you're a language teacher, there's many, many ways you could use this. Is this something that you guys think you could use?
Yeah. And the way we see it is, and you can start combining these different question modules together, and you have multiple choice, maybe a survey, maybe this, and so on and so on, and you get a very varied experience.
So if you think back to the creator we just showed, where it has the add question button, you can then add different types of questions and different types of game blocks.
So what's the correct answer?
So this bit is where we'll emphasize that we're still in prototype. I believe the order was Titanic, Hollywood, Neil Armstrong, and Beatles. This next one is actually not a question, so you can ignore what's on your device at this stage. This is what we're just calling a slide. So you could imagine playing a blind Kahoot, guiding the lesson. And as you're guiding the lesson, you could embed images or videos, or in this case, a 3D visualization again that we found online, where you can explain stuff in between the questions. So you could do it to introduce the next question. You could do it to reinforce the learning after the question. There's many, many use cases.
And avoid you jumping in and out of a presentation format and into the Kahoot and so on.
And this again is about game design, because these types of slides, these types of game blocks, they're about building the narrative. They're about introducing the world, introducing the experience before you play the experience, and that happens through the questions.
We talked about scene setters.
Hi.
Can I use a slide from a PowerPoint that I use in class?
Yes, because what you would have to do in that scenario, probably at the beginning, would be to save it as an image and embed it in as an image. We have explored, for example, embedding Google Drive presentations in here.
Yep.
But just to emphasize, this is very much a prototype at this stage.
But basically, the more online and cloud-based tools become, the easier it is for us to integrate and create a flow. And actually, you can have the same thing appear in different parts of your program. So this one might as well also be part of a Prezi presentation, and it'll be part of a Kahoot, and then you start getting this world. That's why we're saying we love sharing this with the bigger community, with other app creators, because actually then if they start building upon our ideas and we build on their ideas, you guys get a beautiful suite where you make content and it's available in a bigger ecosystem. And I think that's the way EdTech has to go if it's going to be possible for you guys to not be creating everything all the time individually.
Is this a feature that you think you would use?
Yes.
Hey.
Okay, Martin, it has to be prioritized.
Build it.
So on our end, we see an answer thing. So
At the moment, you want, when it works, you will have just a paused screen.
so
Wait.
they're forced to look up here
Yeah.
and on.
This is, as we said, this is our labs mode. We're just hacking things in to show you where we're going.
We would probably encourage on the device to be looking up.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if you could have mirroring whatever's on there eventually instead of just like a pause
Yeah,
situation.
the only reason we don't do that, and there's some others, actually another Norwegian service who do that, you can actually mirror everything. The problem we see is because of the network. If every phone is going to pull that image in, it kills it. And also the data plans, if they're on 4G and so on. So we have chosen not to do that. And also because our pedagogy, we do want people to look up on the big screen. So there's other services where you can do that. But it's just not as inclusive in terms of network and so on. But it's a good point.
Congratulations. Yeah. Well remembered.
I did play Landis.
And
That's the
so
end, thank you.
You'll get emails from us with a super pack and everything afterwards, and access to the new creator tool. So it'll be awesome. Thank you.